Hello my lovely Flosstube friends, welcome to A Stitch with me. As you can see today I'm working on the lovely Andromeda, and would you believe that I started her on the 7th of October 2017. I know, 4 years, that's way too long. She's being stitched on a 28 count Lugana in the colourway Cyrus by Chromatic Alchemy, and because I'm so stupid I decided to stitch her 2/2 for the dress and 1/1 for the skin. Why I do that to myself, I do not know. 4 years. I can't believe she's took 4 years. So I decided that I need to get her done. You know, we've not had the best relationship over the last 4 years, so I don't want to make it 5 years. So I've made quite good progress this week on her. I decided that I needed to just get the skin over with. So I spent a lot of this week stitching the remainder of the skin, and the back stitch, well, don't even get me started on the back stitch. It's official. I hate back stitch, or at least back stitch of arms. Arms and limbs I'm absolutely useless at. So I've done the best that I could, and yeah, let's just say I wasn't being overly careful with her, because I was just like, you know what, you're going to have wavy arms. You're going to look the way you look. So I persevered and finished the skin. I've done the back stitching. So now I'm working on whatever is left, which basically is the waves, the rest of the rock, the beading, and then it is done. Totally done. So as you can see from this video, you've probably already guessed that this isn't the usual video where I'm trying to stitch and talk to you all at the same time, because, yep, it's not that I can't do it, I do struggle with that. And this particular day, I was just sitting there stitching. I was watching Flosstube. I was hanging out with McKenna from Stitching in Sequins, Lover. She almost had me in tears talking about her dad and her grandfather. So, yeah, I thought, you know, although I want to sit and stitch, I wasn't really in the mood to set all the cameras up and try and drag everything out and then try and talk to you while I was stitching. So I thought, well, I'll do what I've done before and we'll just try this whole voiceover bit. It's a little bit easier. Because I was sitting at my stitchy spot using my big scroll frames, my Manelium frames and stand for this video, it was a bit of a struggle to turn the work to do the back. So when I'm sort of finishing my thread on the back. So what I've decided to do is edit out the bits where you see me flip the frame over, because you don't need to see my lap. I was only sitting there in my jeans, don't worry. I was fully dressed. I wasn't just sitting there in my Jimmy Jams. So yeah, so you'll notice that as I'm chatting to you now, that all of a sudden you'll just see it go from the front of the work to the back of the work. But I just thought it was a better option than seeing when I keep bashing the camera overhead and all that great recording type stuff that you do. Well, I do to record these videos to hang out with you all. So just as a little explanation, if all of a sudden end up on the back of my work thinking, well, how did we get here? Well, that's how you got there. So I thought this was the better way to do it. So rather than struggling of recording and turning the frames and chatting and all the other stuff, this was my option. But like I say, she needs to be hit hard. And as you can see, I'm stitching white. And you know how much I love to stitch white. Not. And I was almost at the point where I was just like, you know what? I feel like putting her away, because I've now got to stitch white after stitching all the skin. If the skin wasn't bad enough, stitching 1/1, and then having to try and tackle the back stitch, I then ended up with, okay, well, we need to finish this bit over here. And it was like the first colour that it required for me to fill in a gap was white. And I was like, oh no, not again. So hence the reason why I thought, you know, if I'm going to have to sit here and stitch white, if I'm recording it, then it will make me do it, because yeah, I can't just give up and put her away when I'm supposed to be doing this for a little stitch with me. So you're helping me, believe it or not, you're helping me stitch the lovely white. Although I have to say, for some bizarre reason, whilst I was doing this, and I'm sitting here, therapeutically stitching, for some bizarre reason, the white on this particular piece, in this section, wasn't going too badly. It didn't look overly or more messy than my stitches normally look. So I was like, oh, so maybe that's what I need to do. Every time I decide to stitch white, I need to do a stitch with me so that apparently it will look a million times better. Or at least that's how I had it in my head while I was sitting here doing this. And obviously sitting there listening to the lovely McKenna. So what to tell you all? It's been a whirlwind of action here over the last week or so. So update on the build, although we're sort of built. I can officially say that I am now watertight. I have doors and windows, people. Yay! It's like doing a little happy dance to actually have doors and windows. So now it can rain as much as it likes, and it can be as windy as it likes, and it will make no difference to me whatsoever now. The weather can throw at me whatever it likes. And would you believe it? We had a ton of rain. And although it was windy, it wasn't massively windy. But it was windy. All the time that we had the bad weather, I didn't have doors or windows upstairs and just had plastic sheeting and was just like, I'm going to end up flooding downstairs, or at least having to repair damage because we had a small amount of water in. So all the time that we had the bad weather, I had no glass and no solid windows. And would you believe it? Since the day we put the windows in, we haven't had an ounce of rain. It's not even funny, is it? I don't know how this happens to me. But I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. But it is quite nice to know that I've actually, it now can do what it likes and I don't need to panic. So yes, so we have doors and windows upstairs. In my next Flosstube update, I will probably input some pictures so that you can see what else has happened. Oh, the staircase. So we've got the actual staircase in. So we now have stairs. The stairway to the upstairs room. So no more ladders. So no more scary moments. We have stairs, although I'm saying that we do have stairs, but I don't have, you can see I'm sitting here wiggling the camera around. Sorry, people. Trying to get the right angles. So the staircase is in, but we don't have a handrail yet because we have to wait for the glass to turn up because I'm not having, what do they call those? Spindles. We've not got spindles on the staircase. We're having the glass panels on the staircase to keep it nice and open and fresh. So we have to wait for the glass to turn up, which will then govern where the handrail sits on the brackets between the running rail at the bottom and the handrail at the top. So at the moment, it's still a case that you've got just a set of stairs. There's no handrails. There's nothing to hold on to. So obviously with me, with the hip and the crutches, it's still, I have to be extremely careful. In fact, most of the time I sort of go up on my bum or on all fours so that I don't need to worry about possibly falling or tripping, because I'm very good at tripping over my own crutches, it appears. So yeah, so staircase, so that's fabulous. I love my new oak staircase. Again, I'll probably do pictures, although at the moment we've covered it in blue plastic because I don't trust my husband to be going up and down the stairs and not damaging the oak. So we've got it sort of covered. Plus it needs to be treated yet, so it needs to have like a polyurethane sort of coat over the top to make it so that, so the wood isn't porous. So yeah, there's a whole nother lot of work for me to do. Darren doesn't do painting, that's all me. I'm the painter and decorator. He's the builder. So yeah. So once I'm able-bodied and I can have like a nice 48-hour stint at the stairs without him going up and down them, I will probably crack on and get that done. So at least I know that if anything touches it or was to spill on the stairs, I'm not going to get left with any marks on the wood. So the staircase is in, so that's a whole nother headache sorted out. And finally, the rendering got completed yesterday. So the guys came in and done the upstairs. I think it was last weekend. Yeah, it was last weekend they came in and done that. So the upstairs got rendered, and then they put the beadwork, like the metal work around and all over the wall downstairs, and they came back and finished that off yesterday. Yesterday being Friday the 13th. So that is now all complete. So the sideway is a total mess because I can't wash anything down until the render's all dry, and I've got the wall painted. But yeah, it looks lovely. It's lovely to have a lovely flat wall at last, and it will be even more lovely when it's all painted the correct colour so that it doesn't sort of stand out quite so much. But it is absolutely fabulous to be cracking on and getting everything done. And now it's just like a clean-up mission. Mum was really struggling with her OCD going down the sideway because when they done the upstairs, they put the scratch coat on downstairs. So we had the scratch coat done. But they left like this, I don't know, really hard, almost like polystyrene type plastic stuff all over the granite flooring outside. And they left it down until they came back. So it's been like nearly a week of this plastic stuff on the ground, and I had blue tinted plastic all over the windows. That was interesting because, the bathroom had a blue tinge. My study stroke stitchy room had a blue tinge, and Lauren's bathroom had a blue tinge. As you can see, currently I'm still trying to fathom out where I'm supposed to be starting this next stitch. See, even when I'm not talking to you and trying to stitch, you can see the dilemmas that I struggle with. Where's this stitch supposed to be going? So I proved to you that, I don't always know whereabouts I need to put my next stitch. I have to sort of count line by line here to make sure that I don't put it in the wrong way or wrong place. The problems that I suffer when I'm doing my stitching. Normally you would get this all edited out and I look like I know exactly where I'm supposed to be starting, but I thought I wouldn't. I thought I would prove to you that, there can be times that I'll sit there for 10 minutes just trying to work out where this next stitch needs to go. And then sit there counting, going, is it this one? Is it that one? Is it this one? No, is it? Yep. No, definitely this one. That's it. Okay, we're off. We're off and rolling. First world problems, people. Where to start the stitch. You would think after the number of years that I've been stitching, I would be better at this already. But appears not when it's sort of random like that. So yeah, so as I was saying, so the sideway was covered in this plasticky stuff, and whenever Mum needed to go down to put her rubbish in the bins at the front, it could be a little bit tricky to navigate yourself over this horrible plasticky stuff on the floor. And then when you get to the gate and you try and open the gate, it was getting caught on the gate, so you had to sort of push it down with your foot and then try and open the gate. All a bit much for my mum to be navigating, I have to say. So needless to say, yesterday she was extremely pleased when she found out that the renderers were coming back to finally put the top coat on the render so that all that would get lifted and she could get down the sideway without having to have, a fight with the gate to get it open, and also know that she doesn't need to worry about where she's putting her feet because she's on the solid floor. So yeah, that's the only trouble when you're doing all these sort of building works and stuff like that. You might be mindful of, people's access, but trust me, builders and renderers and the likes, they don't even think about that. So that was a bit tricky for Mum, but she's super pleased that the worst of that is over. So now it's just a whole big clean up. So it's the wait for everything to dry, clean everything up, but I can't clean anything or spray the ground and properly get it all cleaned off the ground until the painting is done on the walls so that it's watertight. Because the minute I spray water down the sideway to clean all the muck off of the... Because even though they had all the plastic down, when they lifted the plastic, some of the render went on the granite anyway. So the granite tiles outside still need a good wash. But again, that's just a tidy up job. That's an easy fix, even for me. So that is the build update. And that is the fun and excitement that's been going on in my world. Along with, I've had a few issues health-wise. Nothing drastic. Just being extremely uncomfortable. Needed to take a trip to the doctors. Get some medicine. But it was let's just say, it was one of those lady issues that you don't want when you've either had hip surgery or you need to keep getting to the bathroom. And yeah, let's just say on crutches, that definitely made things a lot more difficult and a lot more uncomfortable than it needed to be. So I've had a few days where, I've not been feeling great. But then with everything else that's been going on, I can't complain because everything's been happening around me without requiring me to do much of anything. But I still feel like everything's moving forwards, which is just how I like it. So what else to tell you? So it's really early in the morning here. Hubby woke me up at a ridiculous time this morning. He's gone off racing. So I think he left here about 5 o'clock. And of course, as soon as he's up, it's almost like the whole house has to be up. He is far from the quietest man that I know. He rustles his packets and how cereal can make so much noise being made, I do not know. And the tinkling of cups. When he makes a cup of tea, he's one of those people. When you make a cup of tea or coffee, are you that person that stirs the tea or coffee without letting the spoon touch the bottom of the cup or tinkle on the side? Or are you one of the ones that sort of almost like whisks it and lets the teaspoon rattle around in the cup as fast as humanly possible, making as much noise as possible? Because the second one is so my husband. I never have been able to work out why a cup of tea or coffee needs to be... it's not even stirred. It's just sort of bashed backwards and forwards against the side of the cup at vigorous speed. I don't understand. Why does he have to make so much noise to make a cup of tea or coffee? In fact, why does my husband need to make so much noise? Full stop. He is a very noisy person. But making a cup of tea or coffee really should not be that noisy. So needless to say, he was awake at 5 o'clock this morning. So I was awake at 5 o'clock this morning. And at first I was like, I don't want to be awake. Why does he have to wake me up? But then the smell and the aroma of the coffee that was being made in the kitchen just made me then want a cup of coffee. And as soon as I'd had a sip of cup of coffee, that was it. I just had to have myself a cup of coffee. So I had my coffee, waited for him to depart noisily as usual, and then thought, I've got a wedding to go to today. I need to be out the door by 10 a.m. with Mum in tow. What shall I do? So I was like, now do I go and get in the shower now? Or do I do some housework now? Or do I do a spot of stitching now? Or do I work out what I'm going to wear? Because yes, I haven't even decided what to wear. It's really difficult to go to a wedding when you're on crutches. Because normally you'd wear yourself a nice frock. Or, a pretty skirt and top with some little high heel shoes. Of course, I can't wear high heel shoes. So now I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter what I wear. So then I was thinking, and the other thing that I find is whenever I wear a skirt, because most of my skirts are quite floaty, being that I'm not a lady of a certain age, but I am a lady of a certain age. The bodycon dresses, the skin tight sausage dress. I don't tend to wear those sorts of things very often. Unless maybe if I'm on holiday. So I tend to go with something that's got a little bit of, flow and flounce to it. But the problem is when you're on crutches, the flow and flounce, as soon as it gets a little bit windy or you're trying to sort of crutch yourself past your own skirt, you get all hooked up with your own with your own material. So I was like, well, I don't know what to wear now, because my plan was to wear like a dress that sort of comes down to, I don't know, sort of my calves, but it's nice, big, floaty, like pleated dress. But then I was thinking on the crutches, that might be a bit of a struggle. So I was like, maybe I won't wear that. So at the moment, I'm thinking the only trousers that I possess is either white jeans or black or navy blue trousers. I don't really fancy wearing black or blue to a wedding. So I'm thinking maybe I'll have to wear a jumpsuit, because at least that way that it's not sort of all floaty, so my crutches won't get all hooked up on my own skirt. But because of that, and because I'm going to now need to wear a pair of flats as well, it's like, well, it's not like I'm going to be spending lots of time getting myself ready for this wedding. I'll just be like, just throw on something that's comfortable and works with crutches and very small, like ballerina pump type shoes. So I'm like, whereas normally I would be spending much more time worrying about, you know, the outfit, what I was going to wear, matching handbag. I mean, I can't even carry a handbag. I'm gonna have to run around with a rucksack. So I'll be like rucksack girl. So yeah, I'm not really bothered too much about what I was going to wear. So that was why I thought, you know what? The house is quiet. The kids are still asleep. Hubby has departed. I have an hour or so to kill. And I was like, this is the perfect time. This is the perfect time to sit and do this little chit chat whilst I'm sitting here drinking my second coffee of the morning, waking my little self up before I go take my shower and do my hair. See, I will do my hair and makeup for the wedding. I just won't worry about what I'm wearing or matching handbags and shoes. There's just no point. And to be honest, the wedding is going to be a fairly small affair. It's a registry office wedding, and then there's not like a hall or anything. We're actually going back to the house. They've got like a gazebo out in the garden, and there's some buffet food that's going to be served. So it's a nice small family affair, which will be perfect for mum anyway. So yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about what I'm wearing, just as long as I've done my hair and makeup, as long as I've made myself look presentable. So we've got that to look forward to. And then, well, and that's really about as much news as I've actually got. As far as news is concerned about life and what's happening. I mean, I did say to mum that there's a few bits and pieces in the garden that I'd like to get done, mostly in the top planters. So being on crutches makes it super easy for me to handle and deal with that. So I think me and mum are going to try and have a little trip out to the garden centre this week. Maybe go and get some nice little bedding plants, fill up those gaps, because we've still got some gaps. But the dahlias, people, the dahlias are coming out in force now. They're starting to really sort of make a bit more of a statement. So maybe I'll do, not a garden tour, because they're not that fabulous. Not this year anyway. We haven't really had the weather like we normally do. So I will probably just take either some footage of the garden or drop some photos in the next monthly update, just to show you some of my lovely dahlias, because I love them. I absolutely love them, and the blooms are looking glorious. There's nothing like a little bit of colour in the garden. So there's going to be a few trips out this week with mum. I have said to myself that if time allows, I would like to get off out and go to some shops where I can look at some fabrics, because you know that I completed my autumn, the cricket collection autumn, and I had done spring before that, but the finishing of spring I really wasn't happy with, and I'm still not happy with. And because I will be putting it up in spring next year, I know, I'm trying to skip all the rest of this year already, because I'm going to put it up in spring next year, I would like to get that finished, and it's a perfect opportunity with me being off work that I can pop myself to a fabric shop with the piece and go and look at some fabrics and spend a bit of time refinishing the piece on some different fabric and make it look a little bit grander and a little bit better, and sort of follow the same process of what I did with autumn, I think, because autumn worked out so well. Nice and puffy. It looks like a nice finish. I think spring deserves the same thing. So yeah, so that's another thing for me to do in the coming week. I think the weather's supposed to be dry. It's not sunny, but it's warm. So at least it's like whether you can have the back door open, I can sit and stitch on the deck if I want to, or I can sit and stitch indoors. But I keep saying to myself, Andromeda's been out on the frame now for, I think since I've done my Flosstube update, which I think was last weekend. I think. I'm losing track of days. This whole being at home, I find that I can't keep track of the days the same as I do when I'm in London or when I'm working. Because when I'm working, I check the days of the week and the dates all day, every day. Whereas being at home, it's like one day sort of drifts into another now. And then I can never remember what the date is. Today is... See, I've even got to check. Today is the 14th of August. So it's Saturday. So yeah, I think it was last weekend that I put up my video, my Flosstube monthly update for July. And I think it was the day or the day after that was when I brought Andromeda out. So I've been working on her for almost a whole week now, I think. So you know when you get like a week in and it's like, yeah, I'm sort of feeling the urge to switch, but I keep trying to say to myself, don't switch, because in actual fact, if I sat down and spent a number of hours a few times a day, well, I say a few times a day, so if I tried to sit down and spend 2.5 hours every day for sort of 4 or 5 days, I could probably have her done, in all honesty. In fact, I probably could have her done before that. I might be underestimating. That's the only trouble. I look at these bits that I'm working on and think, oh, there's only a little bit of stitching there, and then actually it's like, there's a little bit more than a bit of stitching. But the beauty of Andromeda, specifically Andromeda, more so than when I stitched on Roses of Provence, the Mirabilia, it's a very blocky design. So I tend to get a lot more done on her because there's lots of blocks of colours rather than lots of changes of colours. So it is quite refreshing that I can just sit there and do a block of colour. Because, yeah, I don't tend to get blocks of colours in most of the things that I stitch. You think Heaven and Earth design, full coverage, no chance. The most blocks I get is Peacock's Lagoon, and that's only going to last until I actually get to the detail because I'm stitching sky. But everything else that I've ever stitched has not been block colour, including Roses of Provence, and all of the other stuff that I do isn't block colour. So this is really quite a refreshing piece to just have big blocks of colour. So I can spend an hour and actually sort of see a big chunk of colour that I've added. So I do quite like that aspect to this one specifically. I just haven't enjoyed my journey with her. And I don't know why. I don't know. I don't understand how there's certain projects that I thoroughly enjoy. I immerse myself in. I still come up against the same challenges. There will still be things that are a problem, or I get myself in a pickle, or I go a little bit wrong. I can honestly say, I don't think there is one stitching project that I've ever finished that hasn't got an error in it. Not one. Every single one of them has one stitch that is wrong. I'll guarantee you that. Including this one. This one I went totally wrong on, I think it was her skin up. Well, I'm not going to tell you where, because if I point it out, then you might see it. But I don't think you can see it, because I can't even see it. Because all I done was I knew I'd gone wrong. And I was like, well, you must be joking if you think I'm going to try and unpick 1/1 out of skin. So I was like, you know what? Wherever there's a gap, I'm just going to fill in some more skin in the colour that is next to it. And that's how I'm going to roll. And that's exactly what I did. And then when I've sort of got all of the back stitch in, I'm like, do you know what? I don't even think I can tell. I think you'd have to sort of sit there and really study it to be able to sort of see where I've fudged it. I love that word, fudge, because it reminds me of my fudge. Although he wasn't an accident. He was very expected and very, yeah. But I fudged the skin, but I can't tell where it's fudged. But I am really looking forward to the beading. However, I must admit, I'm normally really organised with my projects, and I keep all of the beads, all of the threads, all of the charts, all the bits and pieces are all kept together. For some bizarre reason, when I was sitting there thinking, oh wow, I'm getting so close to a finish, this could be a good thing, I honestly thought that I had the beads and everything in the project bag. But when I've looked, because I was sitting there thinking, you know, only a few more days, I reckon, of actual stitching and I could be beading. When I've looked, I've only actually got one set of the beads, like one pack of the Mill Hill beads in the project bag. Which at first I was like, oh. But if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know, because I've not been brave enough to try and stand on something unstable to get up to where my beads, because I've got one of those bead boxes, the ones with all the little compartments in, and all of my Mill Hill beads from other projects I think are in there. And I think, don't quote me, I think the only reason that I only purchased one set of the Mill Hill beads for Andromeda is that I've still got a ton of leftover Mill Hill beads in the same colours in my bead box, I think. If not, then I have no idea where I've put them, but they've got to be here somewhere, because I know I had it all. I wouldn't have just bought one set of the beads. I would have bought all of the beads. And I think it calls for about five or six different beads. So yeah, so I think I'm missing 4 or 5 beads, which I think I might check tomorrow. I might have to get Lauren to jump up there and get the bead box down for me so that I can check. But obviously I won't be able to check. I mean, I could check tonight, to be honest, but my plan tonight is, after I've been to the wedding all day, I think I'm just going to want to come home and do some stitching. So yeah, I think, I don't know how, I don't know how long we're going to be at this wedding. So, I mean, it depends on Mum, really. I mean, if Mum seems to be having a wonderful time and doesn't show any inkling of wanting to leave, then we will probably stay till sort of late afternoon, early evening. But Mum might sort of tire out a little bit before then, in which case I might be home sort of late afternoon. I mean, we need to be at the venue for the registry office for 10 o'clock this morning. Well, 10:30 we need to be there. So I need to leave here about, 10 to 10. The actual ceremony is at 11. So I can't imagine me being home much later than, 5 or 6 o'clock. I think my mum would have been, socialised out by then. So yeah. I have a sneaky suspicion that I'll still be back for this evening. So I'm still undecided what to do, because I really wanted to do a stitch with me. So I think the plan of action for the rest of today is going to be do the wedding. Sounds like my wedding. Go to the wedding with Mum. See how she's faring. If I get home early enough, I might just do a stitch with me live. Maybe. But then I haven't really announced it to anyone that I'm going to do it. So it'll only be people that just happen to be online that see me go live that will come and join. And I don't really like to do that because so many people always say, oh, Teresa, I didn't know you was doing it. So I really feel that I should sort of, send the post out and schedule it so that everyone knows I'm going to do it. But then I'm like, well, if I'm stitching live and it just so happens that I pop up, then I can say it was completely unplanned and all sort of lastminute.com. Because the problem I've got is I quite like to just do it a bit ad hoc, but sort of pick the day before to go, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a Stitch With Me live tomorrow because I'll fancy it tomorrow. The weather's, I know what the weather's doing. I'm certainly not going to sit indoors and do a Stitch With Me live if it's like 25 degrees outside. And with the UK weather, I mean, even though they give us a weather forecast, they're very rarely right. They're always wrong. They say that it's going to be cloudy and overcast all day, and then for the whole day it's blistering sunshine, and I'm like, really? How is that right? So hence the reason I don't like to make too many plans. But Darren is away this weekend, so he won't be here. Lauren isn't streaming on Saturday, which would then mean that any time after 6 p.m. UK time, I could do a Stitch With Me live. But then I was thinking, well, I don't know what time I'm going to get back from the wedding, so maybe I'll do it on Sunday and actually schedule it so that I know I'm going to do the Stitch With Me live. But Lauren streams on a Sunday, and the problem with Lauren is she streams at 6:30, so 6:30 UK time, and doesn't normally come off until about 8:30, which I don't think is a problem for my US friends. I don't think. But the optimal time to actually do it would be 6:30 or 5 to 6-ish UK time. But I can't do that because we can't have two of us live streaming at the same time because it will require too much of the internet power. And although we've got a business broadband, I still don't think that I wouldn't like to trial it, let's put it like that, because if I was to trial it and find that, I get halfway through the stream and then it goes off, I will be kicking myself. And Lauren will crucify me if she's in the middle of her live stream, and because I decided to live stream and sort of overlap her, that her live stream was to switch off because that's her livelihood, lover. So yeah, no, maybe not. So this is it. So I think I've got the option. Of I can either just wing it and just go with a impromptu go live tonight when I get home, if I feel like it, or I will have to wait until after Lauren has finished streaming. But then I run the risk that Darren comes home, because Darren will be coming home on Sunday. And although his racing finishes around sort of 6 o'clock, by the time he travels home and gets home, I'll guarantee you that he'll walk through the door whilst I'm still live streaming. Which, yeah, no, I don't want him at home when I'm doing that because he's just too noisy. Like I say, if he can't make a cup of coffee quietly, you've got no chance of him bringing all of his stuff in and his suitcase and his, and himself without everyone on the stream being aware that Darren's around. So yeah, so I don't know. I'll have to wait and see how the weekend plays out. See, this is it. This is why it's so difficult sometimes, because Lauren is very much involved with like US streaming. It does make it difficult for me to stream aligned to the US. I could easily do morning streams. So if there's a lot of people in Australia or Europe or UK or Asia that watch, I could easily do a Stitch With Me live in the mornings. Super easy. That because the house is so quiet. The kids don't get up until gone 10 o'clock. Darren is always out and gone in the crack of dawn, and I'm always up by sort of 5, half 5. So yeah, I must admit, maybe I should. I don't know how many of you are in those areas rather than the US. The only thing is that I know that a lot of the people that come and hang out with me are from the US, and if I done live streams in the morning, they wouldn't be able to join them. So I would need to pick sort of I don't know, the week that hubby's on lates at work and the same days that Lauren doesn't stream, which is only 2 days a week, Saturday and Tuesday, I think it is. But then it would have to be every other week. Unless, well, all this is all the time that I'm in this study. Once I move into another room, it will be fine. So I think I've finished doing my stitching, people. I think we've done as much as I needed to do with you. And as you can see, there's not much left really, is there? There's just that bit there. I finished all of those. So thanks ever so much for hanging out, guys.